evening, everyone. I'm Ayushi Jain from BluOne Inc. I'm elated to have you all gathered here for the book launch of Symbols and Parables. We have with us the author, Dr. Alok Pandey, and our publisher, Partho. Dr. Alok Pandey grew up in a family with rich spiritual values, surrounded by myths and legends. Subsequent to his MD in psychiatry from the Armed Forces Medical College, Pune, and his service in the Indian Air Force, his childhood fascination with myths and legends needed a sound footing. Through his spiritual journey through the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo, he understood his deeper calling. Though he has written and spoken extensively on various subjects, India's myths and legends, especially the worship of the Divine Mother, Shakti, remains closest to his heart. Welcome, sir. We also have Partho. Partho is a teacher, poet, and writer. He writes extensively on Vedanta and has spent over 30 years in integral education. Partho also conducted educational and spiritual retreats in India, Europe, and USA. He's currently the chief editor at BluOne Inc. and a mentor to the BluOne Group. Welcome, sir. India is a land of stories which, apart from the age-old charm, are a simple way of communicating profound truths. Symbols and Parables is an attempt to bring alive some of these deepest mysteries of existence through the narrative of stories. Before we dwell into the discussion of the book, I would take a moment to release the book on behalf of BluOne Inc. I would request Partho to express his views on the book and kindle the discussion with Dr. Pandey on Symbols and Parables.
Namaste, Alokji.
Namaste, Partho. Namaste.
It's once again a delight and a privilege to be publishing your second book. So for the record, BluOne Inc. is indeed proud and happy both to be a second-time publisher of Dr. Alok Pandey. Thanks to you, Alokji, and congratulations for the book launch today.
Thank you so much.
I remember the last book that we released was on your birthday, a very auspicious day indeed.
Yes.
And today happens to be a very auspicious day again for those of us who are with the Mother Sri Aurobindo. And BluOne Inc. being with the Mother Sri Aurobindo, it's an important day for BluOne too. Today is a darshan day, where all of us who are with them, we celebrate and mark the significance of the Mother's final arrival at Pondicherry and the official, if I may use that word, beginning of Mother Sri Aurobindo's work on this planet in a very fundamental sense. So it's a very good, very auspicious day to be launching Dr. Pandey's book. And to mark this occasion of the launch, I would like to ask Dr. Pandey, as the author, two questions that are on my mind. First, what inspired you to work on this particular book, Symbols and Parables?
I have been deeply interested in, and nowadays, of course, we don't like to use the word mythology for various reasons, but I am using it in the way it is understood, that these are stories and legends and a whole range of, stories with which we have grown up. And when we look at them from one standpoint, the exclusively material standpoint, we may question whether they happened or not, whether they are authentic or not, and hence there is a tendency to debunk them as myths. But what I used to find in these are three particular things. One was a great inspiration, a kind of idealism, which was so moving and touching. For instance, in Mahabharata, when I read the life of Arjun and the way he grew up, and the life of Ram, which was like an icon, which is something deeply touched me, because as a psychologist or a psychiatrist rather, we don't have a model of what a ideal human being should be. Even we are struggling to define what is normal. So this turn in Indian thought towards what an ideal humanity should be, what should be an ideal course of action. So this is something which deeply engaged me, because it pulls us out of the rut of common thinking and holds as a beacon light as to what we can become. So here it's not a question of whether it is real or not real from the practical standpoint, but what should be, what must be, and something towards which humanity should move. So to that extent, it is so much real to the deepest seeking of the heart. So this was the first aspect of it. Second, I saw that in these stories, there was a very profound occult, um, occult aspects, dimensions of existence, which ordinarily in our extremely materialistic vision we miss, and which not only enrich our life, it helps tremendously. Like, many of these stories of Mahabharata, where we discover these occult dimensions, the Khanda Prast, the Takshak Nag, or in Ramayana, when, to state just one instance, when Ravan draws upon Ahiravan, which is literally, the power of the subconscious as the last resort of darkness with which it attacks the forces of light. The Devasur Sangram, which I think that's a story which I mentioned also, which has a deep psychological connotation in our own life. The fight between forces of ascending order, which is the forces of light, and the forces of retrogression, which pull us down toward disintegration, division, disunity, chaos, confusion, which are the titanic forces. So this Sagar Manthan parable used to be one of my favorite fascinating stories, and I used to recount it to my son when he was old, very young, and a story which he would often ask me, "Oh, Sagar Manthan wala story batana hai." So I found in them very deep, occult, and profound significance, which are very helpful practically. And the third aspect of these stories I found were replete with mystic symbols and significance. Like one of them, for example, was the story of Ahilya. I think in the Eternal Feminine we have talked about it. Or the story where there is Rama and Kevat Samvad, wherein there is a transaction which takes place between the human and the divine, wherein the human does what he can do, taking Rama across the river, and the divine is expected to do what the divine is supposed to do, which is taking us across Bhav Sagar. So many of these stories were for me intense realities. I'm sure it's true of many of us Indians who have grown up with this. And then, of course, being exposed to Western education, which looks at only so-called hard facts, which Sri Aurobindo describes in Savitri as husks of truth. They are not truths; they are simply husks. And enclosed within these, there is a whole world of possibilities. So this used to fascinate me. And so when the time came, these myths and legends to which I was exposed in early childhood began to emerge from within. The deeper meaning, significance. For instance, one of the stories in the Symbols and Parables is about Adhikar Bhed, which was so much considered important in the time of Mahabharata and the Ramayana, the story of Eklavya, which today we look at it from a modernist lens. And even there, we look at it very incorrectly, because imagine giving nuclear technology to someone who is not ready or capable of using it. What a devastating effect it would have. Now we do at one level understand it, but at the same time we have forgotten this important aspect, that gaining knowledge is not just a question of competence in terms of our intelligence, but also it's a matter of our aptitude and temperament, the right equipment within, psychological state within, to be able to receive and use it rightly. So all these stories, then the test of fire, which I find the story of Sita, which I find a very fascinating story of the whole Ramayana as a whole symbol of material nature, Sita being born from the earth, and Rama being the divine soul, and their union is the whole secret of ultimately transformation of earthly life, which can truly bring a heaven upon earth, create a Ram Rajya, so to say, in the sense that this world should become something which we have all dream of, but we don't know how to do it. And it's only possible when material nature, represented in Sita, and of course in the story itself, it's the Divine Mother who has become the material nature, through a course of evolutionary journey, unites with her Lord, which is represented in the story as Rama. And in between, there are the Asuras, which try to steal this power, prevent the whole process, then the doubt, and then the purification process, this passing through fire. So all this, I began to see a very new significance. Now, this was not something I read anywhere, but I began to see, of course, due to the grace of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, the light, that they brought to earth, and somewhere the door opened. And so I started noting them, mentioning them in my talks spontaneously. And along with that, new parable format stories began to emerge. Symbolic tales like the journey, which is the journey of the fish in the book. And of course, many stories which were like a guru and disciple samvad. So this dialogue between a guru and student, where the guru is within us, of course, who is answering, and the student is within us who is seeking. So it took the form of stories touching upon certain contextual issues. So I just did it for the joy of it. At that point of time, question of publishing anything did not arise, but it was a great joy. Every time I would express it on paper and pen. Now we have computers. It used to give me a delight. It's later on that I thought that, well, as Sri Aurobindo says, imperfect is the joy not shared by all. And well, things came up, situations came up, and circumstances changed. And I see the world is changing in a direction where there is an interest, an engagement, and people are seeking to know what are these wonderful stories. India is a land of stories which we have debunked as myths. So it's like revisiting them, but not as myths as we understand today, debunking them, but as myths with a profound truth concealed within it, and myths that can revitalize us, reorient us, show us the way, guide us, take us to next levels of our humanness, and show us the way to be human and then to transcend our humanity. So this is the very broad background, Partho. And I must say,
Thanks,
as I think mentioned last time also, that thanks to you and your team, that you have embarked on such a venture, where people are just looking for only ways to make money and, write stories which are going to, appeal to the common, the average, if not the vulgar. It's something very beautiful, and I really appreciate. And on this auspicious day of the mother's meeting, Sri Aurobindo final return, which in a way is the day when not only the new creation, in a way the work begins, but also the synthesis of the East and the West, and synthesis of the quintessence of the Western and the quintessence of the Eastern start coming together in the form of a new creation. So I must say all my congratulations, good wishes, and prayers for all the success in all your future ventures. Yes.
Thank you so much, Alokji. I thank you on behalf of my entire team. And yes, it has been a good journey for us too. And a little bit of insight, something that I would like to share about your book. When I first read the manuscript, and you have just talked about it briefly, that there is a certain resurgence of interest in what I can only call spiritual and mystical literature. For a very long time, I've been feeling that the young in India have been separated, almost alienated from their own culture, their own cultural and spiritual heritage. And over the years, we have lost, especially the young of India, we've lost the sense of the sacred, the sense of the occult. And when I read this MS, the manuscript, what came to my mind is, here is a very beautifully written book that may bring that whole sense of the sacred in the mythological back to center stage. And that is, of course, one of the things that BluOne Inc. wants to do is to restore the sacred space in writing, in literature. So that is what had inspired me personally to bring this book to the world. And I'm truly happy that we are able to do that. And I do hope that the young minds in our country come and read this book and take away a bit of that richness and beauty, the force that we have in our mythology, in our stories, our parables, our symbols. Because the deeper we go into these, the more we connect with our own dharma.
Yes.
Thank you, Alokji, for doing this magnificent work.
And I'm glad, yes, you spoke about this resurgence which is taking place. And Sri Aurobindo and the mother foresaw it.
Yes.
And I do believe that it is a sign that we are not only going back to our roots and origins, but to the occult springs and spiritual streams that have nourished and nurtured not only this soil, sacred soil of India, the sacred space in the world, but it is something which has so much potential to nourish the whole mankind.
True.
And I think it's just a question of time that the world awakens to the richness and beauty of what is contained within that. Yes. They are books of perennial importance. I often wonder, and I share it with quite a few of my students, that look here, just think about it, that what is it about the Ramayana and the Mahabharata that it has not only endured so long, it continues to fascinate minds. So just to look at it, that there is something which is like an intangibly tangible, which maybe unless we go deep, we may not be able to put a finger, and yet it continues to inspire and evoke those deeper psychic elements in our nature, which lie hidden and covered with our too superficial mundane life. So I think these stories and these books uncover that, unlock that door within us.
Yes.
The sacred space, as you said, where the beauty of the divine lives,
and this is precisely what we need to bring to our literature courses. I mean, I would love to have a book like the one you have written included in teaching English literature to Indians. So yeah. So looking forward to more books of this kind from you, Alokji.
Yes, this is more of a sensitization, and I do hope to write. I do feel inspired, and yes.
As publishers, we are looking for authors and books of this kind. So
it's a joy. It has been a joy. Yes.
So I thank you once more, Alokji, on behalf of the entire BluOne Inc. team.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was looking forward to this book going out to everyone who needs to read it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Alokji.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey and Partho, for this profound discussion. Such discussions are always great opportunities to know behind the scenes stories and the thoughts of the author. On behalf of BluOne Inc., I would also like to thank all the participants who had joined us virtually for the launch. To buy a copy of Symbols and Parables, you can visit any nearest store or buy online on Amazon. To learn more about BluOne Inc. and its literature, visit our website www.bluone.inc. Thank you.